Buddy. I'm going to call this meeting to order. Chairman Schweikert is delayed on the House floor, so we're going to get started. I want to begin just by thanking Chairman Schweikert for calling today's hearing. This is a really important topic. And for all the staff who did the work to set this hearing up, I'm very, very grateful. And I want to thank the witnesses for testifying before the committee and sharing your expertise on this topic. And after a few remarks from me, I'm going to go ahead and introduce you, and then we'll get started on testimony, which may be interrupted when the chair gets here. I join Chairman Schweikert in recognizing the importance of growing innovation here in the United States, especially as we work to outcompete China. Just this past August, I was pleased to host the chairman for a bipartisan roundtable on innovation in New Hampshire, where he met some of our region's tech leaders, an event that was born out of an exchange that we had during a past JEC hearing. Looking more broadly, we know that federal investments in research and innovation can drive economic growth and lead to breakthrough technologies that we end up using every single day. A recent analysis by the Nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office found that federal R&D investments can actually lower the deficit over the long run through the increased economic growth that results from these technologies. The internet, GPS, and semiconductors all began with initial federal investment, which the private sector could then build on. In recent years, to help spur private sector innovation, I worked with colleagues on both sides of the aisle on legislation that supports entrepreneurs here at home by allowing U.S. companies to fully deduct R&D investments in the year that they are made. This provision became law last summer, and I know that this support for R&D will only help American businesses continue to innovate. I also look forward to our discussion today on how technologies like AI impact our economy and how we can work together to support the education of young American scientists and entrepreneurs who will generate the ideas that lead to tomorrow's technological breakthroughs. And one of my focuses for the conversation today will be on how we can work together on a bipartisan basis to upskill our workforce, invest in our scientists, and drive American innovation. So again, I'm grateful to the chairman for holding this hearing, and especially grateful to our witnesses for agreeing to testify today. I really look forward to the discussion. And with that, I'm going to move to introduce the witnesses. Mr. Will Reinhardt is a senior fellow at the American Enterprise Institute. His work focuses on the regulation and economic impacts of artificial intelligence. Mr. Niccolo de Masi is chairman of the board and chief executive officer of IonQ, a technology company developing trapped ion quantum computers and software, which is a mouthful, but I think I get it. Mr. Evan Beard is the founder and chief executive officer of Standard Bots, a US-based company which designs and assembles six-axis programmable robotic arms. And Ms. Ruth Whitaker is the Director of Technology Policy at Third Way, where she leads the organization's efforts in crafting an innovation agenda that balances transformative progress in technology with effective protections against harm and misuse. We will begin witness testimonies with Mr. Reinhardt and continue in the order of introductions. Mr. Reinhardt, the floor is yours. Thank you, Mr. de Masi.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Vice Chairman, and Ranking Member Hassan, for this opportunity to discuss the impact of quantum technology on the future of our nation's economic and national security. I am Niccolo de Masi, Chairman and CEO of NYSE-listed IonQ. IonQ's founder created the entire category of quantum computing 30 years ago with a famous empirical demonstration and associated 1995 publication. IonQ has been building ever since, and today is based in College Park, Maryland. IonQ is the largest publicly listed quantum company in history by any measure: patents, revenue, PhDs, balance sheet, and market capitalization. I'd like to make three main points this afternoon. First, that IonQ's quantum computers are operating on both sides of the Atlantic and rapidly commercializing globally. Second, that quantum technology is transformational and will become a core economic engine and job creator. And third, that quantum computing is vital to and advances our national security interests, and we must invest to ensure we beat China. Quantum computing is the most profound technological shift of the 21st century. and is the final frontier of the computing revolution that began 80 years ago. While classical computers process information in series, quantum computers evaluate solution possibilities in parallel. IonQ will soon be able to solve a wide variety of highly complex problems that would take the most powerful classical computers millions of years to resolve. IonQ quantum computers are already changing approaches to material science, drug discovery, logistics, financial services, supply chain, predictive maintenance, defense and intelligence, and secure communications. We are the fuel of innovation and are poised to positively accelerate every aspect of applied science, as well as amplifying artificial intelligence. IonQ's technology will ultimately save lives by supporting rapid advances in areas such as cancer research and disaster prediction. At IonQ, we're building our 5th generation of machines, which are 260 million times more powerful than our 4th generation. This tremendous speedup in a single generation is a hallmark of IonQ's quantum computing technology, which is inflecting powerfully in the mid-2020s. Partnering with AstraZeneca, Amazon Web Services, and NVIDIA, IonQ announced this past June a 20x speedup in computational drug design. This turns nearly a month of classical computational work into just a day and a half, and was achieved on our 4th generation machine. It won't be long before we can turn a year of classical computational work into just a day. Analysts estimate that by the mid-2030s, the economic impact of quantum technologies will be in the trillions of dollars, creating hundreds of thousands of jobs. Governments around the world are investing tens of billions of dollars in national quantum strategies, and the White House has designated quantum a core national R&D priority. Nations moving first as technology leaps forward build long-lasting competitive advantages. IonQ has spent over $4.5 billion thus far building our company, and considers itself a key partner for our nation in our race to prevail against the PRC. IonQ quantum computers use vastly less energy and space than classical supercomputers. Simulating our upcoming 256-qubit system fully, using a classical GPU, is estimated to require 1 billion terawatts of energy. Planet Earth presently only generates 1 terawatt per year. This strategic efficiency attracts investment, as we have demonstrated by raising $3 billion between July and October this year. IonQ is also the only company in history to have created a complete quantum platform that connects quantum computing with quantum networking, quantum cybersecurity, and quantum sensing. Our quantum sensors have created next-generation positioning, navigation, and timing solutions, which allow for next-generation GPS to be 1,000 times more accurate. Our quantum networks allow distributed quantum computing and the unhackable transfer of information. Quantum is no longer speculative. It forms the backbone of the next generation of computing and security infrastructure. The combination of quantum and AI is a once-in-a-century opportunity to accelerate productivity growth, industrial competitiveness, scientific progress, and economic resilience. If we act decisively, we can ensure that our nation leads and the supermajority of value accrues first and foremost in the United States. Thank you for your time, and I kindly look forward to your questions.
Mr. Beard. Mr. Masi, could you comment on the investment landscape and projected growth of quantum computing? And in particular, I'm interested in how the United States compares to China and the rest of the world in number of startups, patents granted, capital, and scientific publications. What's the mark to market on where we are relative to the rest of the world, and who's growing or who's accelerating?
Thank you for that question. Well, we're fortunate in this country that the world's largest quantum company is IonQ, and it's obviously based here in College Park. So we've been at it 30 years. We've been building for 30 years. And private capital markets in the United States have, of course, built on some of the start that we got with government support a few decades ago. And private capital tends to find good ideas. And so we have seen a tremendous, of course, interest on both sides of the Atlantic for companies such as IonQ. And I think that there are, I call them slow followers, but there are also rands in our sector, of course, who are trying to compete with IonQ in the private markets and are smaller than us and behind us, both temporally and by any other measure, unit economics, revenue, et cetera. With China, we've had problems, honestly, with theft. That has impacted us. We have an office in Oxford, England. Our headquarters is here, College Park, Maryland. there have been thumb drives that go into servers at 3 a.m. and people leave the country, kind of thing. So I, of course, asked for your help on that topic, because it's not a symmetric playing field. China has invested heavily in state-sponsored initiatives. We believe that we have a 5-year lead over them presently. INQ does, but specifically because the U.S., this administration has supported not just growth in our company, but also combinatory progress. So we acquired a company in Oxford, England, called Oxford Ionics that we announced at the Technology Prosperity deal signing in September, and that was obviously very important for catalyzing success for us. And so I think, look, the strengths in, of course, our system is that it's not top-down. At the same time, it remains very competitive.
Very good. Thank you to the panel.
And then maybe, Mr. Demasi and Bert, maybe you can follow up. You're business people, right? So you tell me, what are your perspective? Is there some legal framework issue we need to address that makes sure that we have competitive? Because government need to protect your rights to life, liberty, and property. And we haven't done the greatest job doing that. And then you create a framework for competition. This is what you really to do. No, decide winners and losers, who get subsidies, who get credits, who gets all of this. And we give a lot of subsidies, and usually they don't equally, spread. And that's why create more distortion on the market. So I wanted to see if you have some other things. And another question, maybe both of you can mention, how we can make sure that our younger generation, which is really probably much better than we are in some ways, but in some ways is not, because they really rely so much on technology, have a proper skills that AI actually improve productivity, not actually becoming something that replaced and they become not capable to do something. Maybe you can both add something to that.
Sure, I'll take a crack at that. I'm in the quantum computing business, and quantum computing, we should think about as really the final frontier of the computing revolution that's been going for 80 years. We're an applied science company, fundamentally. So I always like to say that we're not focused on helping kids cheat on their homework, right? And so, we're focused on solving unsolvable problems for classical GPUs. And so the great thing about our company and industry is everything we're doing is creating jobs. There are no jobs today applied against problems that take a century to solve with a GPU data center, or take 1 billion years with a GPU data center. And so every time we advance our machines, we're making these problems accessible, and we're creating new industries. The government, this administration has done a fantastic job of obviously creating an environment for INQ to flourish. We were a venture-backed company before we were public, and so obviously we're big believers in the free market and price mechanisms that, if you have something compelling, capital flows. To answer your question on education, I'm a physicist originally, and I can remember when I went to Cambridge University how much quantum mechanics was on the curriculum in the 90s versus complete lack of it in prior generations in the 60s and 70s. There's a lot of quantum that has correctly made its way into high schools, even maybe middle schools, and certainly undergraduate courses around the world. And so that free market mechanism is doing a good job of getting people forward-looking in how they're learning and being trained. The last thing I will say is, INQ in the United States government at all levels, state, federal, local, has a tremendous opportunity to make us the standard effectively that wins. And we need to build the application and software layer. And so I would echo some of Mr. Reinhardt's comments around the depth that needs to come from specific applications, specific verticals. Building those on our quantum computers gives us the greatest opportunity to create value, grow the economy, create jobs, and of course, lead the world.
My time is expired. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And the gentleman from California.
Thank you all for being here, and thank you for your insights on this topic. We all want to make certain we're building a strong economy or creating the environment so that you all are participating in building a strong economy. So we thank you for your input. Mr. Demasi, I want to come to you. IonQ, important to us in Tennessee, and we are looking forward to great things there. Tennessee's a great tech state. Chattanooga is becoming a tech hub, and we're thrilled with what we see happening there. And as we look at what is happening with quantum and hybrid applications and building out a quantum network, we like the fact that Chattanooga is building a commercial quantum network that businesses are going to be able to innovate on. And I have, as I'm working on restarting the quantum initiative here in the Senate, what we're doing is looking at a sandbox, and Senator Lujan and I are doing this, which would be a sandbox for near-term applications and being able to turn these around in 18, 24 months. I'd like for you to talk a little bit about why this is important for innovators to have access to this.
Well, thank you, Senator, for your foresight, wisdom, and leadership on so many quantum bills, both at the federal level and, of course, in the great state of Tennessee. We're proud of our partnership with Electric Power Board of Tennessee in Chattanooga. And this is, of course, a bit of the world that led not only in the world's broadest and fastest broadband capacity a decade ago, but is, of course, leading once again with quantum computers and quantum networks connected together. The opportunity, both at a state and federal level, nationwide, is to recognize where the ball is going, where the puck is going. And as you correctly identified, the opportunity for value capture is moving, we believe, at the pace that INQ is leading the quantum computing, networking, and sensing space to very much be about software and applications and how you capture value in solving problems that can never be solved with classical computers using our quantum computers in partnership with the next generation of effectively software engineers who use that hardware to solve problems in record time that otherwise aren't part of the economy. So we're creating a brand new industry, will drive economic growth at the state and nationwide level, and it's being created effectively from scratch, right? There are currently no people, very few people who are able to build applications on our quantum computers. And using our quantum computers and networks, you not only can perform calculations that will create, pharma progress, financial services progress, supply chain progress, predictive maintenance progress, of course, defense and intelligence, and financial services progress. And ultimately, you can do that and compute with our machines and also transmit that data and keep it unhackable and safe. So this is the industry of the future. This is the industry that matters in the 21st century. We obviously need to continue to reauthorize everything we've depended on, in prior years to get to where we are. I think there's a very, very brave future, not just for the great state of Tennessee, but also for our whole country, if we continue to adopt quantum computing, quantum networking, sensing, and realize that the game has now moved on to specific software applications in every single vertical that matters in every state and nationwide.
And I think that is so important as you look at those applications that are in development. And of course, you all have done some great work with Oak Ridge, which is there in Tennessee. And of course, the Frontier, world's fastest computer, has been there in Oak Ridge. And we have a lot of innovation. And then you mentioned your partnership with Chattanooga. Talk for just a moment about why it is so important to have a partnership with one of our national labs, and then partnerships like you have with EPB in Chattanooga, and partnerships with working on the Gold Dome, and why we have to have these emerging tech leaders step into those partnerships.
Yeah, well, as you're undoubtedly aware, and Undersecretary Gill at the DOE and I were chatting about a week or two ago, 9 out of $10 spent on R&D are coming from the private sector, but that 1 out of 10 is really important for sparking progress, particularly in early stage projects. Our partnership with ORNL, deeply important in advancing both quantum computing and quantum networking in the great state of Tennessee, but also nationwide. And so the right partnership here is really what I think is creating the ecosystem for our success, honestly. And that's true both at the state level and the federal level. When it comes to broader applications, what makes INQ a very unique company is we have this quantum platform, quantum computing, quantum networking, quantum sensing in all 4 theaters. We're doing this on land with EPB and a quantum network. We're doing this also up in the heavens. And so Golden Dome is completely relevant to the way we see our mission to extend quantum key distribution, quantum security, and quantum computing in all theaters that matter to both the state and, of course, the federal government. And it really is the industry of the future, right? So this is where the jobs are going to be nationwide and at the state level.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, one of the great joys of being the chairman, the rest of you can go home. I have several hours of discussion and questions, and so let's have at it. First off, I need to disclose, I have in some ways, at a personal level, a somewhat radically different view than a lot of the discussion on the automation, my absolute fixation on quantum and noise suppression and what my solutions are. AI, Mr. Reinhardt, I've read most of your stuff. I agree with you like 90%. I disagree with you on some of the allocation of taxpayer resources. I wish it had gone to quantum, but we'll discuss that at some point here. But what happens in a society where we have fewer 18-year-olds today than we had 20 years ago? And next year we're going to have fewer. And the year after that we have fewer. And the year after that we have fewer. But there's lots and lots and lots of us with gray hair. Matter of fact, double the number than we had 20 years ago. How do I keep wages growing? How do I keep productivity in the society growing? How do I actually have the cures for afflictions? Because if 5% of our brothers and sisters are over half of healthcare costs, maybe the morality is not spending more money on maintaining people's misery, but curing it. So are we on the cusp of a productivity miracle that allows our brothers and sisters to live better, or are we on the cusp of dystopianism where the jobs that exist disappear? And that's actually, I wish, the discussion and guidance from policymaking. Are we about to get so much better and faster in curing diseases and answering the universe's questions and those things? Or are we about to do what so often happens, where we get so worried about the displacements in society, which are important, that we actually slow down the very thing that could have created the productivity? So that's my universal setup. And it is different than much of the literature out there. And I'm sure it's different than the 25-year-old you. Were you in Illinois at that time? No, Massachusetts. Okay, oh, even better. So can I first go, I was someone who actually did not like the design of the CHIPS Act. I wanted much of the cash to go to actually quantum and noise suppression, is there noise correction, seeing how fast, because my belief is quantum is the disruption of maybe this millennia, and what it can do, what it cannot do. Tell me how close we are. Is my future a quantum that actually operates much slower because I have to do all sorts of correction, or where are we at? Because I actually, to my vice chair, I actually went to New Hampshire in August to go see one of the projects they have there, where they're trying to actually do, here's our setup and here's actually how we're dealing with noise. Where are you at?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So INQ has the world's most precise and high fidelity physical qubits. We have 4 nines of fidelity, 99.99%. That means we don't actually have a lot of errors to correct. And it's one of the reasons why for the last 30 years we've led our industry, and we continue to lead our industry in every milestone you can imagine, from when our machines turned on, 2017, when they went in the public Google, Amazon, Microsoft Cloud, 2020. We've been running applications and selling cloud access and systems the last 5 years, and we've obviously expanded into other branches of the quantum ecosystem. So quantum, from our perspective, is very much now, and it's inflecting right now in the mid-2020s. It's possible to try and build a quantum computer in different ways. Everyone else has a considerable temporal lag to the path that we've been on as we started this category in 1995 with our founder. And everyone else also has a significantly poorer unit economic pathway they're on. So you're going to see much more expensive machines much later than us, right? When I think about job creation and where we are from that perspective, quantum computing, quantum networking, quantum sensing, we've created this industry from scratch, and it's just inflecting. And as I said a couple of minutes ago, we're solving problems that cannot be solved with all the supercomputers in history combined.
Okay, and so is that running operational? So if I go to Mr. Reinhardt and grab one of his buddies and say, okay, I need AI to design my code, and then the question, and I bring you I want to design something on massive, on synthetic genomes. And so the math is computational in today's computers, takes a decade to do some of that math. I can bring it to you. Are you ready to calculate it?
Yeah, as our machines get more powerful, we're taking down more and more of the workflow, right? So at the moment, as we've demonstrated with NVIDIA, AstraZeneca, Amazon Web Services, we can turn a month of classical computation work on some genome problems, quantum chemistry problems into a day. Soon it'll be a year of work, and eventually it'll be a century of work into a day. We are, of course, partners with classical AI companies, because at the moment, if there's phones and laptops in the room, these are all classical input devices. So there's classical input devices that then need to call our quantum computers for a portion of the problem. Over time, because of our energy efficiency, we use very little power compared to classical AI. We're not power limited. There'll be a natural drive for people who want to run more problems and more of the problem on our machines, because it's just going to save money and save resources, right? So not only with labs like ORNL are we working on grid optimization and power distribution problems that our quantum computers are uniquely good at, the virtue of running problems on our machines actually helps solve some of the concerns that the committee has had around where the energy future is.
Yeah, look, George Gilder last week actually wrote an editorial about his expectation of a major breakthrough that's coming shortly. So I'm actually on the optimistic side. Article, and it's a year old. It basically tried to do the economics of what would the economics be in the United States if every car, every truck was automated. And the growth in the economy was remarkable. The number of people that don't end up in hospitals was remarkable. The ending of accidents was remarkable. It was actually, the authors were arguing that it was the single biggest thing you could do for making the society wealthier. Turns out was the automation of transportation. How do I get the people I work with here to sort of think through that these leaps, these sort of punctuated equilibriums of new levels, and much of that would require you and quantum to make it work?
Sure. Look, you have every right to and should be optimistic. I'm hugely optimistic about the coming years and decades, because technology has improved every aspect of lives when you stand back and look over a medium time horizon for the last century, if not centuries. Trying to prevent computational progress and capturing new value, that doesn't obviously improve economic growth rates, which means it doesn't tend to improve lives. I think that you are correct to identify possible breaks in certain domains. There has to be obviously some consideration of the balance of safety and efficiency when it comes to classical AI and hallucinations. The good news is quantum doesn't hallucinate. It's actually deterministic. So there's a great future coming around the corner from quantum AI, where just the algorithm that you ask a quantum computer to run is run. It doesn't try and sideload itself on when you try and turn it off. There's no Skynet, concern. And so I think that 2030 and 2035 will remind you of where we were in 2015 from a philosophical perspective. I think this concept of black box neural networks, where you dump in a lot of data and you look at correlations and you say, is that smart? Is that helping us? Yes, it is to some extent. But I think that in the long term, we'll see quantum AI supersede classical AI, and it'll be great for the regulatory regimes that we like to be in, as well as great for the way job creation works, where people like machines to amplify their domain expertise and their efficiency.
If tomorrow we had a widely available quantum chip, how much of these AI centers around the country. These are almost no longer needed.
Well, no, I mean, to start with, sir, you know, what we've shown is that our quantum computers can actually help generative adversarial networks learn faster and learn more precisely.
Do I need the same scale of investment? I was trying to find a polite way to say.
Yeah, I think you'll see hybrid workflows in the medium term. In the long term, you'll see, of course, more quantum workflows because less power is required. But you'll see quantum data centers get created probably in the same space.
But dramatically less power, less space, less
With our
heating,
machines,
cooling,
yes.
You know, so I'm just trying to figure if I have $100 billion being spent on building these, and you show up in 2 years, is this almost a stranded investment?
It's not, sir, humbly, because, you know, today your phone, your laptop still has a CPU and a GPU in it. And there'll be a day when you have a CPU, a GPU, and you have cloud access or a QPU, a quantum processing unit is what we call our machines. And you do see specialization in these, let's just say, investments as well as infrastructures, right? Low latency turnarounds on things like advertising, banner ads, you know, GPUs are great at that. And you've seen a lot of investment in that. You know, we're focused on taking problems that might take a century or even a millennia or a million years or a billion years and turning those into days, and we hope hours. We're not focused on the microsecond turnaround times. So the future is bright because you see GPUs growing the total economy on top of CPUs. You'll see our quantum processing units grow the compute space in the economy on top of GPUs and CPUs as well.
Interesting. You and I should have a coffee because I've always seen a replacement of, particularly the GPUs, but
They run alongside each other for a long time, and I think that there will be eventual replacement, but it tends to be slowing down of growth, and it tends to be, you know, the new technology grows really quickly. But we'd love to have a coffee, sir.
no. And okay, and now for robots, and then I'll stop tormenting everyone. But this is one of my only joys I have left in Washington.